Take a look at Thursday night's DFS leaders around Major League Baseball. So Farmer leading the way there with 42 points. Freddie Freeman erupting. Trevor Story down at the bottom here. The Red Sox second baseman, 32 points. I believe now, Garion, I know how much you love the Red Sox love on this show and with many people who work in this market here at DK. He has 7 home runs in his last 7 games. All of a sudden, he has become the greatest baseball player in the history of the sport, Care Bear.
Yeah, you know, I live in Toronto. I don't have to say nice things about the Jays. It's called integrity. But we can move on. Look, it's kind of funny. Like, I look at that scoreboard, and we've talked so much about how there's just been blowout after blowout in the NBA playoffs. We might have to start factoring in, like, blowout potential into some of these, like, DFS slates, because I have seen more positional players pitch in the last 2 weeks than I can ever remember seeing. And I believe all 3 of the guys or positional players on that list did something against a positional player pitching yesterday. So it has just gotten to a hilariously awful point with some of these guys coming in the 8th and 9th. It's really insane.
I mean, RotoWire's Erik Halterman, do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Some people have started to really not like it, and they're over it. I still think it's fun. I mean, give me one funny highlight a week from position player pitching. I think overall it's harmless. Give me a Brett Phillips highlight every couple weeks. I think I'm not too worried about the way things are going there, and I guess it might screw with some DFS slates, but hey, maybe it'll screw with it in your favor, so I don't think it's that bad.
I mean, it's the argument of, like, you don't want to see a position player go in there and just start getting, smoked, and as a team, don't end up getting down like 8 runs or whatever.
Or get up. St. Louis has used the victory cigar position player a couple times this season too. It's crazy.
All right, so you saw
the only thing.
What's up,
I was
Erik?
just saying, the only thing I want is for them to actually try harder. Give me somebody trying to hit 90. Give me somebody with a knuckleball. That's all we really need.
So you had a couple pitchers on that full screen with top scorers last night. You got a pitcher on tonight's slate, Garion, over $8,500 that you like?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the well with Shane Bieber against the Tigers. He was the chalk the last time he had this matchup. I don't think that'll be the case on this particular slate. It's a big slate. We've got a lot of talented pitchers up over 9K. I think Verlander's going to draw a lot of ownership. I think Sean Manaea going up against the Pirates is going to draw a lot of ownership. So you're probably going to get Bieber at a relatively nice roster percentage. And for as much concern as we've had about the just absolute loss of velocity so far in 2022, he's been fine, really, aside from one bad start that was like game 1 of a doubleheader that he was pitching in like frigid Cleveland conditions. He's been perfectly fine. For the season, he's got a 3.25 FIP. His swinging strike rate is up at 13.2%. That is elite. He's generated a lot of strikeouts in his last couple of starts, negating, again, that one game against the Blue Jays. I just think Bieber's fine. And I think the Tigers in particular are the worst offense in baseball against right-handed pitching. They come into this game the lowest isolated power and lowest WRC plus within the split. So if Bieber's going to be this far below 10K, and I understand the pricing, I do, I'm just going to keep trying to take advantage of that.
All right, who do you got tonight? Pitcher over $8,500, Erik.
Let's go with Brandon Woodruff at 9,800. He looks good this season by basically every metric except ERA. His sits at 4.76. But the ERA estimators are about a run and a half better than that, still striking out nearly 29% of opposing batters to go along with a 7% walk rate. And he looks even better if you ignore his first start or two. He got knocked around his first start of the year, and he only had 2 strikeouts in each of his first two starts of the season. I think with this year's shortened spring, there were a lot of guys who just didn't look like themselves in their first turn or two on the mound. If you toss out those first 2 trips to the mound, he's striking out 34.6% of opposing batters, which would be easily a career high. He gets a Cardinals lineup that has performed pretty well this season. They rank 9th by team WRC+, but it's a nice pitcher's park, and I don't think the names in that lineup are overly scary. I would expect them to be more middle of the pack than top third, probably going forward. So I think, given what he's shown for the majority of the season, I think Woodruff is a trustworthy ace, and I like the matchup enough here.
Erik, an expensive hitter. Give me one north of $5,000.
Let's go with Vlad Jr., 5,100. At 5,100, if I counted right, which I may not have early in the morning, he's tied for the 36th most expensive hitter on the slate. He's having a down year, but I don't think anybody can tell me with a straight face that he's the 36th best hitter in baseball. That just doesn't add up to me. And in a down season, it's a 133 WRC plus. There's a bunch of metrics that say he should be having better results. He's underperforming his expected slugging percentage by about 100 points. There's some calibration issues, I think, with that stat this year, given that the ball's moving differently. But 100 points, I think, is well more than those calibration issues. Even in a down year, he's still striking out just 17% of the time, has a easily above average barrel rate. And he's facing Chase Silseth, who had a good debut, but then couldn't finish the fifth inning in the second start of the year. Just 9 career professional starts. This guy was an 11th round pick in 2021. Good for him for, being here and looking competent, but he is not in the tier that would make me at all scared of Vlad at this kind of price.
All right, Garion, who's your expensive hitter tonight?
Well, because I'm a journalist and I can put my biases to the side, I will admit Trevor Story looks absolutely incredible right now. Look, it's hard to ignore a guy who's got a 483 isolated power since May 10th. He's got a 216 WRC plus in that same span of time. He's striking out a lot, but when he's made contact, it has tended to be really powerful, really dangerous contact. He's got 9 home runs in his last 58 at-bats. But this is more about the Orioles and the Orioles pitching staff. I know there was like a 2.5-week period at the start of April. We were all like, oh, wow, maybe they figured something out. Maybe it isn't just the fact that they absolutely mangled Camden Yards to somehow bring everyone's home run per 9 down. But Kyle Bradish is just not a major league caliber pitcher. I mean, it's a similar story to what Erik was talking about. You've got a guy who's just not quite ready to be where he's at and where his team needs him to be. Bradish has specifically struggled with right-handed bats, and struggled might even be like a kind term. He has been absolutely awful against right-handed bats. 3.77 home runs per 9 to opposing right-handed hitters. A 714 slugging percentage against opposing right-handed bats. With Trevor Story seeing the baseball like he is right now and being right-handed, I'm willing to pay 5.5 for him tonight.
All right, guys, we're running tight on time. So before we let you go, let's head over to the DK Sportsbook. So what's your favorite bet tonight, Garion?
I'm going to take Texas on the money line at minus 130. I think this is pretty light considering just the disparity in the pitching matchup. John Gray has been a lot better than his ERA suggests. Cole Irvin has not been nearly as good as his ERA suggests. He is in the 14th percentile in expected ERA and expected opponent WOBA so far this season. And Texas has also been far better when they get to face a left-handed pitcher. They have a 108 WRC plus against lefties. Compare that to an 82 WRC plus against righties. This is the exact situation you want those Texas bats. I think they have the pitching matchup advantage as well. So I will take them as a slight road favorite on the money line.
Favorite bet tonight, Erik?
So Garion, despite being an objective journalist, has been a bit down on his Blue Jays, I think, in some recent shows, which you would be if you had to watch them every day, and they were a little disappointing, although I think they're still in a wild card spot, so maybe acting a little spoiled or something over there. But anyway, I'm going to take them at minus 120 over the Angels. I already talked about Chase Silseth. I mean, maybe there's something there, but again, just not a track record at all, not a pedigree given his draft position. Alek Manoah on the other side, 162 ERA on the season. I don't think he's going to keep that up given the ERA estimators, but he was very good last year as well. I give a pretty clear advantage to the Jays on the pitching side. And even though the Angels have been much better offensively so far, there's too many big bats still in Toronto. They've had a bit of a slow start, but with guys like Vlad heating up with homers in his last 2 games, I would count those offenses as pretty equal going forward. So with that big advantage on the mound, I think minus 120 is still a pretty good deal for Toronto.